Om. Om. Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha, Gurureva Param Brahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Chinmayam Vyapyat Sarvam Trailokyam Sacharacharam Tatpadam Darshitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Tvameva Mata Shapita Tvameva Tvameva Bandhuscha Sakha Tvameva Tvameva Vedyagravitam Tvameva Tvameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva Tvameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva. Om Badram Karnevi Shriyama Deva Badram Pashe Makshabhirya Jatraha Sthiraya Rangai Sushtubagum Sastanubihi Vyashema Devahitam Yadayuhu Swasti na Indro Vridhashravaha Swasti na Pusha Vishwavedaha Swasti nastarsho Arishtanevihi Swasti no Brahaspatir Dadhatu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So we are in our second chapter still. And what verse are we on?
Karika 20.
Karika 20 in the second chapter. Oops. You got it?
Yeah. What page is that? 154.
So quick review the overall point of this chapter. Comparing the waking state to the dream state, trying through logic to break down all our rigidly held beliefs that the waking state reality is real, separate from me, and causes my mind states. And what's our definition of reality? Philosophically,
That which cannot be negated.
yes, that which is never subject to negation. So if it doesn't exist in the beginning, and appears to exist in the middle, and then doesn't exist at the end, not only is it impermanent, but because it's objectively apprehended, it is sankalpa. It is imagination. All right, going on.
Prana iti pranavido bhutani iti cha tadvidaha guna iti guna iti guna vidya tatvani iti cha tadvidaha. Those who know the prana call the Atman as prana. Those who know the bhutas call the Atman as bhutas. And those who know the gunas call the Atman as gunas. And those who know the tattvas call the Atman as tattvas.
So here he's talking about our belief in various systems. Now, these are references to schools of philosophy in Gautapada's period, which is maybe 600s, maybe late 500s. We're not sure, but long time ago. Many of these ideas still remain today. We just call them by different schools. So breaking down them, the first one is those who call it prana, think the self is prana. So there are people who think that the breath, the vital force, the vitality, that's what myself is. Dead person doesn't have a self, according to them. It's that life principle in the body. Second one was what? Bhutas?
Yeah.
So bhutas here means elements. So what makes up a person? In those days, their idea of elements, earth, air, fire, water, ether, etc. But we can say the same thing today, just a little bit different paradigm. So what is a person? Well, I'm the body, and I'm made of carbon and oxygen and some rare earths, yada, yada, yada. All the various elements that make up the human body. Consciousness itself is then a function of synaptic activity in the brain. The materialist. Then there's people, is the next one gunas?
It's gunas.
Gunas. So sattva, rajas, and tamas. This is a reference to Sankhya philosophy. Sankhya philosophy says, in the beginning, the three cosmic forms of the gunas, tamas, rajas, and sattva, were in equilibrium, and all was without form. Then the gunas went out of equilibrium, and matter, consciousness, everything came into being. It's interesting. Just like our modern Big Bang Theory, the Sankhya's have no answer to why did they go out of equilibrium? Was there an intelligent principle that pushed them out of equilibrium? No, just the gunas. So in modern day, okay, in the beginning was the singularity, and it Big Banged. Where did the singularity come from? No answer. And the last one,
Tattvas.
I forget what tattvas are. Does he say?
Categories.
Okay, the various categories where we divide the world into various kinds of matter and stuff like that. Again, we don't have to worry about what these categories are or anything like that. The whole idea is all of these deny the fundamental permanence of awareness itself. They deny the existence of an intelligent principle from which all of this issues forth. Not what the Vedanta teaches. Going on.
Pada iti padavido, Vishaya iti tadvidah, Loka iti lokavido, Deva iti cha tav. Vidaha. Those who are acquainted with the quarters, padas, call the Atman as quarters. Those who are familiar with the sense objects declare that the only fundamentals in the world are the sense objects. Those familiar with the lokas declare the reality to be the lokas, and those who know the devas equally insist on believing that the devas constitute the great reality.
Yes. So the idea is, what is the reality? What should we focus on in our spiritual endeavors? So the first one was the padas, the quarters, which is a way that's north, south, east, west, above and below. That's not quarters, that's sixes, isn't it? Forget the above and below. The idea is space. So some people think, okay, space is what's real and everything happens in space, physical space here. The second one,
Sense objects.
sense objects. Those people who think, okay, what's real is the things that are perceived through the senses. There are forms of Buddhism which kind of come into this particular notion. You know, a rose is a rose is a rose. My problem is I superimpose likes and dislikes. But if I remove my likes and dislikes, when I remove my projections, I will see the phenomenal world apprehended through the sense objects as it really is. Vedanta will say, yeah, that's one level of superimposition. But the objects themselves are nothing but imagination. Vedantins take it one step further. The next idea.
Lokas.
Oh, yeah. So here the idea is people who think that other realms of being is what's real. I have seen this happen among, at least in the West, people who are absolutely fascinated and involved in the psychic world. Frequently, it would be people who have a very difficult time just getting by and through life. You know, they'll be all concerned about what's happening on other planes of reality. I was talking with a guy and say, oh yeah, the energy is getting this way and things are going to be transformed pretty soon and new age is coming. And oh, the reason we're having all these troubles is because of cosmic things here and there's a new energy flow happening and stuff like that. Do any of you know people who are caught up in all of that?
Yes.
I'm not saying it's not happening, but that's not reality in the end. And then the last ones, it's devas. So these are people who can't trust people with a physical body. Very interesting. Who's your guru? Well, my guru is Shirdi Sai Baba. You know why Shirdi Sai Baba makes a very good guru for them? He dead. Dead gurus can't kick butt. Oh, what's your spiritual practice? I'm channeling Lazarus. Have you ever tried listening to a human being who may have something to help you with? Oh, no. You've got to channel. So. Do you know anybody who does that? The underlying issue is people who can't trust other people. If I talk to somebody who doesn't have a body, then that's got to be truer. The problem with this particular kind of spirituality is whatever messages they're getting is always filtered through the mind. So if we're deluded, if we're taking an incorrect turn on our life path, the mind is apt to rationalize that. Whereas if you can trust people who have your well-being at heart, they can say to you, Jim, that's absolute nonsense. No, no, you made it up, Jim. It's important to have human beings in our life. Frequently, God speaks to us through other people. The other aspect of this are those who have said, oh, I've got to keep surrounding myself with white light because all these negative beings keep coming into my aura and stuff like that. I'm not saying there are not discarnate beings, some of whom are troubled, just like human beings are, and others who are beneficent, just like human beings are. But that's not ultimate reality. So, what I tend to tell people, if you're afflicted by the psychic world, you got to tune your radio. Right now, you're tuned into KRAP, crap. You got to turn the dial and turn to KGOD. If you tune, all that stuff, doesn't mean it's at its level not there, but it no longer afflicts you. I was talking with someone last night who works in a rehab place for addicts and alcoholics, mostly homeless people, stuff like that. And he has a friend who's into the psychic realm. He says, "Oh, what's the matter with all that is that there's ghosts. Just they're possessed. So you need to get a chessboard. Get a chessboard for the group. Put the chessboard in the rehab center because it'll confuse the spirits." I'm not making this up. It was very real. You and I don't need to be concerned with this. Behold the divinity ever beholding you. Whatever the problems of any person you or I meet, know that the being looking out of those eyes is the infinite. All right, next verse.
Veda iti vedavido, yajna iti cha tadvidah, bhokteti cha bhokritavido, bhojyam iti cha tadvidah. Those knowing the Vedas call it the Vedas. Those who know the sacrifices call it the sacrifices. Those conversant with the enjoyer designate it as the enjoyer, and those who understand the objects of enjoyment think it to be the objects of enjoyment.
Okay, this is an important one. So we have, as it were, two layers of revealed literature. In the Vedas, we have three sections. Sometimes it's divided into four sections. We have the mantra portion, which are hymns. We have the brahmanas, which are rubrics for priests to tell them how to do the various rituals. We have the aranyakas, which is the forest literature. Some people tuck the Upanishads into the aranyakas, other people split it apart. Much of the Aranyaka literature is upasana, modes of worship and devotion. Then the concluding portion of the Vedas we call the Upanishads, the knowledge portion, the jnana kanda, which is the ultimate reality. It appears to be conflicting. In the Karma Kanda, the earlier portions, dualism, lots of ritual, propitiate the deities. This is how you get what you want. If you've got this problem, do this particular mantra. If you have this desire, do this particular ritual, and you'll get what you want. All this cosmology that's set out in them. This is one layer of the Vedas. Many people completely focus. So, what do we have here in the West? We have the fundamentalists. Many of you have Christian friends who are fundamentalists. The Bible is absolutely true, literally true, every single word. And they have no way to reconcile obvious discrepancies. So always we need to look to the knowledge portion of that scripture. The other way to interpret this, there's a distinction between what we call a pandit and a yogi, or a jnani, we could say. What's a pandit? An academic, a scholar. Closest English word we might have in the West is professor. It's not negative. It gets this kind of connotation when they talk about it. They say pundit, pandit or pundit. They say online on the television. People who bloviate on some subject. But it's honorific for someone who's a scholar. But that's different than a woman of knowledge. Not knowledge of knowing information, but knowing who she is. So the additional interpretation of this is you will not find peace of mind, self-realization through study of the scriptures. So in Vivekachudamani, Shankara says, without knowledge of the self, study of the scriptures is futile. You just get lost in a forest of commentary, the various opinions and viewpoints. And he goes on to say, with knowledge of the self, study of the scriptures is again futile. You would become an Upanishad. Worldly example. If a Martian landed and was talking with Saundarya and said, I've read this book and saw pictures that human beings have 3 heads and 4 arms. Is that true?
No.
You sure?
Yes.
Did you have to study anatomy to know that?
No.
How do you know it?
I don't have 2 heads. I don't see humans around me have.
Exactly, your own direct experience. So also for the woman of knowledge. She has the constant, obvious experience of herself all the time. So why do we have the scriptures? They're a bridge. They become the way in which the divine vision of the teacher is transmitted to the student. It's a pramana, it's a means of knowledge. Okay, after the Vedas, what's the next one?
Sacrifices.
Yes, ritual. Some people think if I do ritual, then I'll be okay. I'll get what I want. Some Brahminical families are in fact taught that if you don't do these sacrifices, the universe will start to fall apart. That it's the Brahmins doing these sacrifices that keep the universe going. That's their job. We have ideas about the importance of ritual in the West. So let's see. David, I mean, you were raised Catholic, right?
Yes.
So you had a holy day of obligation.
Yes.
You had to go to Mass.
Yes.
You had to go to confession at least once a year before Easter.
Yes.
What happened if you didn't?
You could burn in hell.
Hmm?
You could burn in hell.
You could burn in hell? So ritual was important. Not that ritual isn't of value, comforting. A lot of people get a lot of comfort from going to Mass. A lot of Indians get a lot of comfort from doing puja. If you're having a hard time and you're suffering, you worship the Ishta Devata, your wished for deity, through a ritual. You feel better. But that's not the ultimate. Some people are taught, oh, you have to do this particular mantra. You have to do Vishnu Sahasranam every day, and that's going to fix you. Do Udam Chamakam. I'm not saying that these mantras are not powerful, but they, in and of themselves, will not give you freedom. Next idea.
The enjoyer.
Yes. So the enjoyer, the bhokta. This can also mean the experiencer. So another way of saying what's ultimate reality? My ego. I'm a person. It's all about me. My needs. Oh, I love that phrase. You hear that so often. I'm just not getting my needs met. Oh, you have no place to live. You're starving, and your body is in pain. No, 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 no. I need a manicure at least once a month. Those are not needs. Those are non-negotiable desires. It's all about me, my experiences. Another one, boundaries. I set my boundaries. Young people, one of the ones like, I've got to tell everybody not to trigger me. It's not safe here. You have any young people who are doing that one?
Yes.
Somehow, if I control the world, I will be okay. Here we are, over 1,000 years later. Same stuff. And then the last one is the sense objects.
The objects of enjoyment.
Yes. So people think what's wrong with my life is I don't have what I want. If only I had a Cadillac, I'd be okay, says the homeless person living under a tree. I'm just a renter. All my friends own houses. I'd be better off if I had a house. Oh, I work for a living. I get a salary. I should own my own company. That'll be better. Yeah. Problem with my life is I don't have what I want. And that's not reality. Is that the last one in this verse? I think it is.
Yes.
Next verse. So what he's doing is he's talking about all these schools that say this is what's ultimate reality. And as I had said earlier, even though those schools may not exist in that form hundreds of years later, the ideas still do. Going on.
Sukshma iti sukshma vidah. Sthula iti cha tadvidah. Murta iti murta vido. Murta iti cha tadvidah. The knowers of the subtle consider it, the reality, as the subtle. The knowers of the gross designate it as the gross. Those who worship a form call it a person with form, and those who believe in the formless call it as void.
So there are those people who think ultimate reality is the subtle world. A modern version of this is the metaphysicians. Change your thinking and the world will change. I still want a Cadillac, but the way to get a Cadillac is do visualizations, do a treasure map, do affirmations. It's the subtle that's real. That's sukshma. Then there's those who think it's the gross. They look at the metaphysicians and they say, that's crazy. If you want a Cadillac, save up the money and buy it. It's a materialism. That's all there is here. There's no God. Perfectly okay to be an atheist. It's just about this physical world. That's all there is. That's the gross. The next idea.
The knowers of the gross.
We just did that.
First was the subtle.
Actually, we did that.
A form, call it a person with form.
Yes. So these are those people who think that the murti, the idol, and the form of God is what's real. So you may think it's Hanuman. You may think it's Shiva. You may think it's Krishna. You may think it's Jesus. You may think it's Buddha. You may think it's Tara, green Tara. But if your idea of ultimate reality is a form of God, that's not it. This point, I'd like to say this one thing about forms of God. Do you know how you can tell you have a false God? He hates the same people you do. There's no such God. Next idea.
Formless, call it as void.
Yes, so these are the Shunyavadins, again, another school of Buddhists who say there is no ultimate reality. The Hindus have a mystical experience. It's very different than what the Buddhists have, very different than what the Sufis have, very different than what the Christians have. There may be some common points of practice, but there is no ultimate reality. It's void. There's nothing. Contrast that. The Vedantin, to use Aldous Huxley's term, is a perennialist. There may be different cultural language and imagery, but people are basically the same, and truth is the same. We all have a physical body. We all have an emotional life. We all have a thought life. We all have an experience of Jiva Bhavana, personal sense of self. But at the core of our being is this Chid Akash, this space of pure awareness. And that's transcultural and transtemporal. That's the teaching of Vedanta. Going on.
Kala iti kala vido, disha iti cha tatvidaha, vada iti vada vido, bhuvananiti tatvidaha. Believers of time call it time. The believers of space call it space. The alchemists and magicians call it vada, their science, and the knowers of the worlds call it the worlds.
So again, different schools. Some people would say time and space are ultimate reality. What I think is so cool is astrophysics. It's starting to talk about the relativity of time and space. Oh, it's quite more malleable. It's not absolute. But is that the ultimate truth? Well, the astrophysicists may think so. So time and space, what comes after that?
The alchemists and magicians call it vada, their science.
So people who are caught up in doing ways of manipulating the phenomenal world through various spells, rituals, things like that. And even today, we have various schools of people who deal with their life through magic. What's the system that comes out of the Caribbean is called Santorini?
Santeria.
Say it again.
Santeria.
Santeria, yeah, which is a combination of some African forms and Catholicism. But we have all sorts of things. I remember there was a big deal at one time of the psychic surgeons from the Philippines. Remember those? Now they would have these capacity to like put their hands in people's bodies and bring out diseased organs and things like that. Very weird. Was it true? I don't know. but that's not ultimate reality. Or there was a great teacher, Satya Sai Baba, with millions and millions and millions of followers, most of whom believed in him because of his capacity to do magic. He would just put his hand out and vibhuti, sacred ash, would come and happen, and he'd whirl his hand and give people what we call in the West apports, like jewelry or a watch or a picture or something like that. Some people say he used a familiar spirit. I don't know. It's interesting. Even the Master Jesus was known primarily in his own time as a miracle worker. You know what he said about it? Lest they see signs and wonders, they will not believe. And every one of Jesus's miracles was temporary. Well, what about raising Lazarus from the dead? Well, I have news for you. Lazarus does not live in Daly City. The poor guy had to die again. That's not it. But we human beings are attracted to miracle workers. It's because we feel helpless and hopeless, and it is frequently a place of last resort. Next one.
The knowers of the worlds call it the words.
This is Locus.
Bhuvana.
I think this might mean astrology.
Yeah, there's four. It says knowers of Bhuvanas, the 14 words. The words to be.
It could also mean like, oh, when you die, where do you go?
It's cosmologists or geographers.
Okay. There's still today lots of people who put a lot of faith in astrology, or even more interesting, ancient aliens. They're going to come and rescue us. Who built the pyramids? Ancient aliens. Other worlds. Put our faith in that kind of stuff. Not saying that there's not intelligent life out there. I hope to God there is. That's not what the goal of the spiritual life is about. Going on.
Mana iti manovido, buddhiriti cha tadvidah, chittam iti chittavido, dharma dharma cha tadvidah. The believers of the mind call the mind as the reality, while the believers of the intellect call the intellect as the reality. Similarly, the believers of chitta, mind stuff, call chitta to be the reality, and the believers of the righteousness, dharma and adharma, call this to be the reality.
So these are interesting things. Again, schools of thought at the time, but the modern analogs. So the first one, the believers of the mind, call it the mind. Modern psychology, it's all about our feelings. You know, get in touch with your inner child. Feel the feelings that you've suppressed. Not saying that there's not some benefit to that. Don't stuff your feelings. You may remember this, you're old enough. Back in the 70s, we used to do things like have batakas, these kind of bats that were harmless, and you
Nerf bats.
what?
Nerf bats.
Nerf bats, and you hit other people or you hit a pillow or stuff like that to get out your anger, you know, or screaming into pillows and things like that. Do you do any of that stuff?
When I was in college, it was very totemic.
Say that again.
Totem. It was like purging yourself through totems.
But thinking that the feelings are what's real, just the way. I'm not saying there wasn't some value in it. And then intellect, understanding. I think the modern analog of this would be Freudian analysis. Lie there on the couch, you go 5 days a week till you thoroughly understand why you do what you do. Anybody here done any kinds of, there's Jungian analysis too, but mostly Freudian is what was the origin of. Anybody done any Freudian work? And what did you get from it?
It was interesting, but it didn't solve anything.
Well, there was a fellow, Werner Erhard, who started the S training, who had a marvelous statement. He used to talking about this sort of thing. Understanding is the booby prize. It doesn't really change things.
You could say even like study of scriptures in the same way, right? Like intellect.
Yes, yes, but that we kind of covered that. We talked about those who think it's the Vedas, think it's the Vedas.
Right.
But yes, it's not figure outable in the end. All right, so
Question.
go ahead.
Not figure outable because there's no real self there. There's no real person there.
And then the problem is, okay, so I have this particular syndrome because of my family of origin. Well, what about what happened in a prior life, which caused me to come into that particular family of origin? Now, do I need to deal with that trauma? Or what about the lifetime before that? The truth is, the mind is labyrinthian. And causation hunting of my problems is not necessary. Right here, right now, the end result of all those labyrinthian causes is in the direct experience in the now. That's where the work needs to be done. Now, if you're intuitively led to go see a psychotherapist, by all means do it. I have implicit faith in your inner guidance. But in the end, psychotherapy will not give you freedom.
My experience was I didn't know I had a story. Psychotherapy showed me I had a story. Life showed me the story was not true. But I had to realize I had a story before I could live.
Good point. Or I like what Ram Dass said, who was a psychologist? You know, only you got to be somebody before you're nobody.
Even I think he also said only a healthy ego can die.
I think that's Carl Jung. Yeah. All right, next one.
The next one is chitta.
Oh, chitta, the mind stuff. So there are ways of interpreting this. There are, again, schools of Buddhists who say all of reality is just mind with a capital M. Chitta, the mind stuff. But chitta also has within it what I call the flashlight capacity, the attentive faculty, what we look at. So here you could also say reality is what I pay attention to. So Is it all about changing what I pay attention to? There's some value in it, but I'm not sure that's ultimate reality. I don't think it is. Going on.
The last one is righteousness.
Oh, yes. Many people think it's about living a good life. Interestingly enough, in our modern day, I can only share with you out of my own experience. I have met some very good, kind, generous people. And I think in our modern world, we would call them secular humanists. Berkeley's full of them. They're good people, but they're essentially atheists. But they want to do good. Be good, do good. Pathetically, I've known people with all sorts of religious convictions who promulgate a lot of destruction in them. So being religious does not mean you're living a righteous life. Also, we may ascribe to good moral character. But I have news for you. You will fall short. And if you make the Dharma itself ultimate reality, then you live in a world that is shame-filled. Because the human equipment is by nature finite. It comes about because of spiritual ignorance. So I don't say if you screw up, I say when you screw up. I promise you, you will. The yogi's mind is the same in honor and dishonor, as well as pleasure and suffering. Any thoughts on this? And I'm not saying it's not a value to live a righteous life. I'm very fond of the yamas and niyamas of Raja Yoga. It's a really good map of how to move through life from a moral standpoint. In the West, we reduce it all to the golden rule. What's the golden rule?
Do to others as you have done to yourself.
Yeah. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. All of the yamas and niyamas can be reduced to one practice. What is it? Ahimsa. Yes. Non-injury. Now, if you're very good about being kind and generous and non-injurious to other people, but then inside your own mind, why did I do that? I'm such an idiot. I'll never be able to blah, 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 blah. Anybody have inner dialogue like that? That's violence.
So I guess if you have a very good relationship with your own mind where you don't have dialogue like that, wouldn't that kind of translate to how you behave with other people too?
Hopefully. Frequently, I think, I don't want to even go there, never mind. I think you're right. All right, next one. How are we doing about time? 15.
Pancha Vishaka Ityeke Shadvisham iti chapare ekatrishakam ityahu ananta iti chapare. Some say that the reality consists of 25 categories. To others, it is 26. To some others, it is 31, and there are some others who consider it to be infinite in number.
So some people think reality is about some paradigm. Modern paradigms, Maslow's pyramid of needs and desires, the Enneagram. What are some other modern psychological paradigms, things that are popular?
Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
Yeah. But we have all these things, and some people adhere to them with great rigidity. Give you a real live example. So I had a dear friend who was a psychologist, and I was very fond of her second husband. His name was John. And he came from much of the same cultural background as my father had. And so there was some affection. He would come up with little quips. Like my dad says, you're never supposed to say you're full at the dinner table. You have to say, I have had an ample sufficiency. You know. So this fellow John said, oh, I've had an ample sufficiency. More would be a superfluity. I just had a blast with this. So his wife, who was the psychologist, whenever there'd be any time I would have something to say about John. Oh, there's your father. Oh, there's your father. Oh, there's your father. You know, and it got to be irksome after a while. No, it's John that I like. You know, he is a discrete human being. Does he have some traits that my father had? Yes, but he's not my father. That was her paradigm. It's all about family relations. I think Freud, let's see, no, Einstein said it's all relative. Freud said it's all relatives. And there's some truth to it. But we actually do relate to one another, not just our family of origins. All right, going on.
Loka lokavida prahu ashrama iti tadvidah stri punna punsakam lainga parapara mathapare. Those who know only how to please others, the Laukikas, call it the reality, but the act of pleasing the world. Those who recognize the ashramas and faithfully follow the rules of those ashramas consider it the reality to be the ashramas. To the grammarians, the reality is but the male and the female and the neuter genders, and some others consider Brahman to be the manifest or unmanifest, para and apara.
Yes. So let's again take this idea by idea. The first one.
Those who know only how to please others, the Laukikas call it reality.
Yes. So is it about being a good person? Is that what's going to make me happy if I'm just doing good for other people? This is certainly a value. There's a trap in this. Love is genuinely wishing the well-being of another. Love is not always giving other people what they want. Love is not what I can get from the other. Are you complimenting this person because you want them to compliment you? Are you fishing for compliments? I think is what they say. So what Gaudapada is saying here is people who approach life and it's all about pleasing others. No, that's not it. Next one.
Srishtir iti shrishtavido.
No, I mean the next
Oh,
idea.
sorry. Those who recognize the ashramas and faithfully follow the rules of those ashramas.
So this is about people who are all caught up in what is your place or position in life. Of course, the ashramas, brahmacharya, grihastha, vanaprastha, and then sannyas. That's for Indian culture. But here, any of you ever had the thing of, oh, why aren't you married yet? You want to get that one? Oh, you've been married how long? Why don't you have children? Anybody get that from family or friends? So these are where people have specific rigid ideas about what you're supposed to be doing. You're 50 years old and you don't own a house yet? You're still a renter? People get those things. So we have this idea of ashramas or stations in life. It's what it's about, even in our modern world. Next idea.
The grammarians, if the reality is but the male and the female and neuter genders.
I have no idea why anybody would think grammar is reality. But I have been told that the study of Sanskrit itself can be a praman, a means of knowledge. I don't know enough about the study of Sanskrit. What does Swamiji say about it?
Not much.
Okay, going on, next idea. I will say this. There are people, my mother was one of them. When you can't control anything else in life, you control other people's grammar. You know anybody like that? I have to confess, I have a grammar police going on in my mind. It doesn't come out my mouth. That should be nominative case, not objective case.
Me too.
Huh?
It's always making comments on how the language has changed. And it's not what I was tested on when I was a kid.
What? You dangled a participle? Anyway, my mother used to do. Going on.
Brahman to be manifest or unmanifest.
Yes. So is Brahman ultimate reality without a form, or is Brahman this phenomenal world? We would call it pantheism today. God is everything. No, God is completely outside of it all. The world is separate from God. Vedanta is panentheistic. God is all this world, but God is also beyond this world. Next verse. That's the end of that verse, isn't it?
Yeah. सृष्टिर इति सृष्टिविदो लय इति च तद्विदः स्थितिर इति स्थितिविदो सर्वे चेह tu sarvada. The creationists call it the reality creation. Those who believe in dissolution describe it as dissolution, and believers in sustenance believe it to be sustenance. In fact, all these ideas are nothing but imaginations in Atman.
That's the point. So creationist, we have ideas like that even in the modern world. World's only 5,000 years old. It says so in the Bible. God put dinosaur bones in the ground to test our faith. And then dissolution. Oh, it's going to be the end of the world. It doesn't matter what we're doing. It's the end times. A lot of modern politics. You know why the evangelical Christians are frequently pro-Israel, pro-Zionism? Because if the third temple is built and there's the red calf and all sorts of other things, that's going to make Jesus come back, then the world will end.
They're evangelical geneticists.
Mhm.
There are evangelical geneticists that are trying to work out genomic surgery to produce a red calf.
Oh my gosh.
They're spending hundreds of millions of dollars.
I thought, because there's a reference to this in the Bible. So for many, many people in this country, it's all about the coming end times, the end of the world. And Gaudapada sums up this whole section that we've been through today. All of it is imagination. Now, let's make it pretty real for you and me today. In our society, we have deep, deep political divisions. People on the right and the left are convinced we are right, they are wrong. They are in an information bubble. We have the objective truth. Now, how does a yogi want to approach this? Don't believe your mind. And don't believe other people's minds. It doesn't mean you don't have an opinion. We all do. Doesn't mean you don't work for justice and righteousness by your understanding. But beware of certainty. I invite us all to have deep mistrust of certainty, especially our own. Because you can't think a real thought, and nobody else can either, including that thought. What's real? Aham Brahmasmi. I am Brahman. I is the only thing that is non-negatable. Any thoughts before we finish? Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Sri Guru Pyo Namaha. Hari Om.